Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. This is roll call for RDC teleconferencing regular meeting of July 7th, 2021. Roll call, Ricky Ness.
Delegate Rick Nez is on the call. Thank you.
Wilson Stewart Jr. Wilson Stewart Jr. Thomas Walker Jr.
I'm present.
Herman M. Daniels.
Good morning. Here.
Mark Freeland.
Good morning.
Key Allen Begay Jr.
Chairman Delegate Calvin Gay Jr. is present. Thank you.
Wilson Stewart Jr. Mr. Chair, you have 5 members present and it constitutes a quorum for you to conduct your meeting. I just saw Delegate Stewart on the line, so you have 6 members present, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Thank you very much, Ms. Begay. We're down to invocation. I'd like to ask Honorable Freeland to do the invocation. Honorable Freeland. Honorable Daniels, could you do the prayer, sir? Can you hear me?
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chair. Certainly, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. Yeah, I want to understand again. Because he had it, said I know again. But I was on all that once man son. But I was on all that one. Jonah is the car. I don't know quite it's so luck again. You try one it long. He has an it, and it's soon it. I don't he not it, never. He has it on his suit, but it's in 90 car, the Benedict Honor. I don't see the end of a shiny honor. So that's it. So go a begin the hello. I don't ask for the shady, I don't let that again. So to take it. Oh, he had none on the Benedict. I don't want Donna a home should have. When he can have them slutty Benedict. When that all asked. Nathan Dean by honor, Lego hot, ego a honor. None is an age, ne? I don't know, Hunchman has sung. The car and her age gate laid a honor, laid out of bandage, a bench, AJ. The car and none age gate of what it's card of hon, none is an age, net deep, any be a honor. Here I see here honor. I don't want slitty in it. I don't say Ben I did see the behinning, I don't 20 in it. Ada behinning, it had a neat and island. It's easy had it at home. I don't know how that at either. I think so if Babach a young age eat or nana honor. I think so a honor. Ben hits the a young age in honor. I don't know. Benashni, Benda honor. Skin on later that is day honor. You must send the hello the well, jeez. I don't hear none of that. Hello, the whale, Jesus. What is it? What's the next ego? I know that you easy. It's not out that you easy. Only to the charger. A bend up and national was cut a shot. As I see those one now, no change. I don't let them go bad order that. Or we try to see you that. Try to solve it. Charges in your later. I don't know, but it does. People became Dutch and stole Lego. No, that later here, you get English. I don't know, the national, so they bend down. I know that you are the other. See that needed Zidler, Oneskispé. So there's the honor. Hey, Honana. It's another of La Noda, so the Zuntle. Oh, baby, Ben hit Hayada out Etolet Honor. Mahada has here, Noda, so the Honor. But that, again, his major way not some Noda. تحويل جيش لينا هون بنا بناشني وتغدش بانسس كيس وتغدش أخدي نيجوشا دولازن هو داش نيدان دين صودا بانسس كيس ونشابنا شلينا نشيني هون بنا بناشني هون أو عايزي بيجد عندي خير شيء دون هو داش نيدا دولش صودا بانسس كيس شلينا نشيني هون مش زاد يجا بيجد عندي خير مش أول إنش يجا بيجد عندي خير دون هو داش نيدو شيء دولش زداش خنشي بك أهدي ليدون صودا بانسس كيس هون شلينا نشيني هون ليدي هو يجا بدينش كان هجاشي دا ديسك دي دا ديسك إبادل نتاجنودا بنداش نتكينو دخويل جيج شدينا شين كيش بيدا حوزن ونيك لودات أويا سخاتنا بنز زشات نودا مشيتينش كان لينا أهد أشي قاد كويشين هودا إيليا يستخان داسي نادو تكيم غادا سيل لينا هودا دخويل جيج أدو دستون إبادل نه نودا هودا لينا كيتينش كان نانتين يجو هاشين صورها بي يدا جشتيو دخويل جيج توين ده هون ساني دان دهالو ده هون لو جوانا هونو تشكي وين دوش كاسو خدشي بدش نهنودا لو دا ليده بندش نتكينو دخويل جيج نين سنة هو شرير سيني هون شلايبن نتكو هون شباهن سندو هون شاش سندو هون شك ايدا هون بيبج اشتكيش هون شرير سيني هون باهت ايدا هون يتخيل هات إيدو لشلي بني بيه هون أدونانا أدونانا سكادو وشن يتخيل هات إيدو لشن خادا هشيادو لشون أدودي نانش ناجي دون جنو هون نانش ديل نيتو هون جنو هون ساد يادات إيجي ساد بناس دو تاشكي هون بيش كيدو لشون نسي كيش هون بني تهون شون ياد إيجون سي كيش دو لشون ياد إيجوش خان سي كيش دو لشون إبني عندك هذا هالشيء ولا شديد من الحين هون أرونا هون مش صادات هون هيك إجوان داش داش هون نتجوش دبا هي هون قالوا شيء ده هذا نص تين شنو به نفسي هون وقاك أديت أودية أنا أقعد إيت شيء بتش بيت جاه ده بيجا شنو به نفسي هون شديد من الحين بشه هون نص هون وكواني هاد تخدون هذا بيزتين ولا شنو ده يشتكي هون هاد عند هون الفن لنجينيك إجازة سند هون هناس إيجي عايز يشبع يهنيتن هون هون تشنه نيت ليدا هون هنا تلاشية تشنه لهون هون بدها جواب باي هون توجه بين خهون هون الفن لنجي هون هذا الجورج هون هذيك إجازة هذا شيء هون تشتغل مسليني هون مكيشين بين هو هذني هون شريان مسليني هون قارشين تحبش كيده هون تشتنا هون تشل لداز هون إيشين هون بين كده هذني هون عند هون كده نيجي هجوا بعدي نيجي هجوا بعدي نيتزن هون شريان مسليني هون أرونا هون نخاش شنو هون أصوي هون نخبرت هون شلون دولش هون تعرف تخرج هون ديك خرج هون خبرت هون شلون دولش هون أرونا هون استويد الثاني هون ناستاز ليجي هون بدها هجوا بعدي هون تهازت تبنى نجو هون هو ده تات شاتنا تنا خيتوي وش تانا شاهد أني خلنا نجيت هون زنده زود عدد إن شاك شاتنا خيتوا أشلا هو قن ستا نوده هون بهجوا باقي إنه هون إيرون خبرت هون شو دولش هون الخانات إيش دولش هون هجاشين هون أدول ناش نيد دول كدش نيد دولش كدون مجا الخانات إيش دول أشكنا نانشيل إنه جيت أهود أن ندي خاطر ناس نادي نيك خاطر لشتجينا مخليني هون أرو هون كيس لاست سو مش اللادو أهويت ليه هون مكان ديك خاطر هذا حاليا إيرون خبرت هون شو دولش هون بعدات إيجي هون إيرون هيتوان جو خبر وين السنة هون قال أيوة بطنيني تحل هون ابن هون خبر هذا حشي هون هذا هون أعرف هون زي الإيد أنت هاز تخنيت هون أرونا نغيسترو دوساني بعد حيار أنت هاز تخنيت هون نخبرت هون شلون خبر هذا حشي أرونا هون السنة هون تهوي سألو جو كاسا وهت إيش دو أبيت إيجو بتريسي بتجين تهوي إيجي هون the disabled again هون I see for those special needs إيدا هون بدها جو باي بود هون خبرت هون شو هون aro alko hona dosa do tago hona hona ba hoba ke kago net longi aro to was anda kre na ba hoba ke to jo hona ke hada ago ne ke de kagi hona een khaba da hasi hona o e o dai hon so des dole hona aro nan ho to ho zanda da inish astro atla state hasta ke da hasta besh has an besh has an ya da so da ge shta ya jo hona aro nan shama na gaita judicial branch ajo da inish hon alla atla state as da hona bada banda nashida alfo shabata hona so khabata hona so hona aro han he ho RDC members on Resources and Development Committee on members and lineage colleagues on Ishinadish Inibas Shinata Hona Aronana Hona that so Keta Hon and Nala Keta Hon Shabata Hon Sohon but Hadro Baya so Hon Badan Shihon Yuda Botan Hona Ahwich that I did Kato Hon vacation Hon and Sada case of vacation Hona so there's the Hon Yahada Hona or Ishab Shabata Hon Sodo Les Kabata Hon Sohona what $8 hon should be on the scene. What I need to know is $10 hon. By Lahan so hon the ask for any $100 hey hon. Said an ardent said and the house other said they cheated the hon. I don't know at last card hon. Odan does card hon the sheet hon. I didn't get $100 hon. Put on lead hon to the house gauge hon. Ask for the hon it's nes it's nes it's what I die hon so hon. Aden hit $100 on as for the I didn't hit $100 on Rada has yesterday and I'm saying on as for the hit $100 on hard as and the Dahanat no cost. Nesney as needed hit $100 on was on hustling $1 was on hustling was on hustling was on hustling was on hustling. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, Honorable Daniels for your prayer. Roshi at Ehotani clean all this so on TK also. Yeah. We're on announcements. Any announcements, colleagues? Ms. Begay, any announcements for us?
Mr. Chair, this is Daniel.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, what I have for you is at 1 o'clock today, we have a leadership meeting with Navajo Nation Land Department and the General Land Development Department. And on Friday, we have a leadership meeting with NHA regarding the IHP, the 2022 Indian Housing Plan. That's scheduled at 9 o'clock. And on the week of the 12th through the 16th is the drought assessment tour for RDC. On the 19th through the 23rd, we have the Navajo Nation Council special session. Next week is also the Navajo Nation Council summer ride. And I don't know how many of you are participating in your annual horseback ride, and that's set for next week as well. And I think the Office of the Speaker issued an announcement for that special event next week. Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Back.
Thank you, Ms. Begay. Honorable Daniels.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah. I don't know Kodo Shama Kodo Dam. I don't labor. I thought I later Kodo Betty Sanson, Negi AIC here Kodo. I don't know summer session council ride. Joyce Shadi Lake Kodo. I don't know. She says Negi Kodo a dam this year. It's in that. Or she does it and wait Monday. She don't want a yard or let's go. Summer session. But the 21st council went down and the adequate see a tracking the Kodo and that is Kodo adequate Chinese years they will John Wayne, Lord Chinese years they will 7 days a day. Yeah, but I think he's a call. God, that's a date or the little one. No, skin there. But either the other thing that now at the same or another need to go. For 8 years, I don't know Kodo at Dana. myself and Paul Begay, we did a march from Quality Inn on the President's Office. Business owners in Lenegate, Antelope Canyon, Adonana, Little Colorado River Gorge, Ajaban Daid, Nehidal Town, Adonana, Four Corners, Monument Valley, 4 operators, Lenny Donan vendors, Adquishin Hidal Town, Anitlan Adenike, Adod Adeniko, Astin Haha, the Elaho. So, do signing ceremony, what do Nidako. Sonny. Hasta de no than it's and dead and we are that lawyer. But it done a signing ceremony. It is legal to reopen the roads. Like for example, Manama Valley Road 8 they closed the issuing on that for tours. Issuing the he came litigation has in for change and not a data letico. So it Ecuador only $1,000. I don't know Ecuador. After sort of a height, or head or around sort of a height, should not public a 21st council, the Yego, Ika 24th council, excuse me, Yego, Ika I don't know Ecuador president, Donald J. Idiot, although they was 100 Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your dedication, Honorable Daniels. The Nega vendors, I'm sure they were really struggling. Repossessed vehicles, they had to pawn their jewelry and such. Thank you very much, Honorable Daniels. Any other announcements? None? We'll go down to recognizing guests and visiting officials, introductions for all, starting with honorable members of RDC. Vice Chair Walker. Vice Chair Walker.
Yes, good morning, Chairman and committee members, our legislative staff, and the various offices that are on this call this morning, as are the listening audience, our relatives, our constituents. Good morning to each and every one. So, again, since you know, Honorable Daniels, yeah, yo so yo ya a queen so yes that yeah ado should in the Thomas Walker a Western Navajo Agency though the Navajo Bishop on ado pana shahagi ya to the twin heading ho Nana Hassan Takoha Gate a David Oche Tass and the level for the so a Banashako 24th Navajo Nation Council the Resource and Development Committee just Chaho Quiz Kana Akoho Ida Nan Shudel Junanta but I don't mention a shin the Tony Bashing what something. Yeah, she that it don't set this kitchen national. I could call here, another Jinani Kaigi. I don't just staff though. Kahigi Bedak Echo. That is not condition, Dolly. Yeah.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Honorable Stewart.
Good morning, Shania. Dosh Shania Ken. Dosh is at Yezra. And I am participating by phone for right now from Port Defiance. I'm on other almost done with another call with the planning meeting. So for one of my communities, But Shea Wilson Sister Junior and Shea. Do quits on the age. No, I just catching it, but just catching that should there'll be between this and another. And again, good morning to all of our listeners this morning for our regular RDC Resource Development Committee meeting. I just managed to catch what yacht a been. I just not thought cats other than the things this morning. So to start our day off. And let's make today an awesome day. That's it, Shana. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Stewart. Honorable Daniels.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, Nana. Arunana Kodo should add from that. I don't give it. As personal, I don't know. We had clinic, so Nana. I need a shake. What that meant, right? Will get ho, can't hold up in other than not on a panache. For 8 of that, it's in the house of middle list. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels. Honorable Freeland. Honorable Begay.
Sorry, Chairman, I was muted. Freeland.
Honorable Freeland, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. Resource Development Committee members, thank you for that prayer. Shay Mark Freeland this year, those nigga Tutsoni, Slot up here, Ani, a bushes chin, Sanja Kindash Che. I don't turn up as additional. I represent 8 chapters, Eastern Navajo Agency, Crown Point, Nadishkish, Te I, Becenti, White Rock, Lake Valley, Herfano, and Nyaza. Thank you, Chairman and colleagues on Senegi, staff as well. All those listening, have a good morning.
Thank you, Honorable Freeland. Honorable Begay.
Chairman Kialan, Yadish Kedos na Kudo Chitaja Hanwani and Strongki Ani Dasija Adob Anida Sichari Dishini Dasinala. Called the 5 chapters Kudo Pathat Shahaki A Luna Kachibuga Salan Kanwit Nazlini and Minifan Zit I Kudo Shananashin and Honza the whole just what I at Jada assistant of the chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Begay. We also have with us Honorable Paul Begay. Honorable Paul Begay. Push star 6 to unmute. Honorable Chairman Otto So.
Chair Ricky Ness, Delegate Paul Begay.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, introduce yourself.
Thank you, Chair, members of the Resource and Development Committee. I was inside the building attending the New Mexico Indian Affairs Committee meeting, so I quickly ran outside. So here, though, Shay Paul Begay in here. So I'm trying to multitask, listen to your session and also this meeting. Tadish gives the name Slido Dikatoni Bashin for the dream that should trade okay additional data. Conway now Costo in whole Ade not Apanasha. Kitchi do Ishka gates and Abasabatin. Tona had little could be taught. Cotego Ade and Strakwe. Tona not the Bishman's unbaby or Chihigi. For he had all and Jonathan K that after the Hitler London. Sure.
Yeah, Honorable Begay. Honorable Chairman So.
Good morning, Chairman. Honorable Nance, additional Mr. Walker, Vice Chairman, members of RDC. Good morning. Che Honorable Paul Begay, Tyson, Christian, multitask, Bani Kai. Also in the ship, now kind of toy at Lenin. dan kapwa haba shin do look at ne da che tsena jini e da shin na lo da e nan shni do tonenes de e be beige mas an e shna da e ka be shna ti I serve on the law and order committee, so really appreciate this dialogue and yeah for this time.
Thank you. Honorable Slater. Is it Sue?
Good morning, Yat Eshina, and thank you very much for letting me introduce myself. Good morning. Also to Vice Chair Thomas Walker, Shache. Shache Carl Russell Slater, Dasha Jene, Kia Ani National Sotana Bashis Chin, and Jenny Dasha Che, Ada Sontana Dashana, Senek Anna Shah. My name is Carl Slater. I'm Kiani, born for the Jewish people, and I represent Round Rock, Rough Rock, Wakachukai, Sailor Wheatfields, and Rock Point on the council. Serve as Vice Chair of the Health, Education, Human Services Committee. And just briefly, I want to give a plug. We're trying to work on a hybrid horse, but definitely mountain bike ride for our young folks into the council chamber to complement the summer horse ride prior to the summer session. So I invite folks to get in touch with me, and the idea is to generate enthusiasm for creating an outdoor recreation fund on Navajo that can support our youth and trails development and other things. So, Chair, thank you very much for the time to introduce myself and make that little plug.
Thank you, Honorable Slater. Any other honorable colleagues on the phone with us? None? Shay, you have written
Delegate Brown.
Honorable Brown, go ahead.
Ayate Keha Shananta Shana Ado Resource and Development Committee. Shay Nathaniel Brown the Shin Toba Hunchlo look up Lashes Chin Ki Ani the Che Ado Tlazana the Shanala Ado Trao Hahotso Ed Nebanasha Chilchimbi Todo Danaho Todo Trodinishje Ado the Nebe Basic Edist Inja Aja Beshmaster Anat Nelja Aja Elto Elka Nature Ado Kodo Hawan Mother Benaho Ani Ashliat and Johnny in Keaton Donso. But here I'm at Doty, a meeting with OzCAD. Today's a deadline for the ANA Indigenous Language Grant. So in the Hizadigi Ea on the Kujayendaha. So meeting a group of wonderful Dene people who are in Hizadi Ajayendaha Ado Yendad Nishi. Ado Keha Anso Ahonso Doleshananda.
Okay. Shay Rick Nays in Nishiga. I want Sanan Slow Zaitachini Bashish Chains and Habitlash Shado Kia on a Dashanal Hot Eye and Nenschla. Lower Fruitland Holiga. Nast Arada Hasna Quagi ended that Sesson Manit and the Desna. Hot Eye Quani has Aro Croish Roenia. Hastango chapters Banash Nishigat Sarak Ando San Juan and Hanzado Great East Tosacado, Isindeshkish, Yat Ben Arnold Hodoke and Ketronot Sonigi, Kashe Karo RDC staff, Ms. Begay.
Good morning, this is Delegate Hinyo, Shnanda.
Oh, Yat Honorable Chairman Hinyo, Tochandan, Hebeshma Hassan Khan, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Additional Chairman is the Resource Development Committee. Just Solida has Addition Doshe. But a Craggy Bahela Bini Kadosh when it Lonigi Adam General Hutcher is a Gisha Kadosh Chile. Diane General Bahili or Adodinle Klotchinade. Ade Ishmas under the Shark or other is Soto Tuchile. Ada Trago, Trahot Zogi, Ade then put the Shark or other than that Yadiko, Yadi Binibi, Sahalo, Kodoi, Dibe, his Anika is Zogi, Sozo, Ebicate for the Shark. even that you can't get control. So get la, could Shenanda, Shang Lagi.
Yeah, Chairman Henyo. RDC staff, Ms. Begay.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Shaya Shami Begay and Shado Nakadan Anslon, the Petition Bishing. Topai, they dash shade, Kachini, they dash Nalo Dai, Sun and Slen. Lay Sawmill, Arizona, Denver, Nasha. Although today, lay office stand kitchen. Although Shiaj Herman Daniels, thank you for the beautiful prayer. Yes, we do need rain. I see the buttons and only even though we live up in the mountains, there's still a real need for water. Echo. Mr. Chair, back to you.
Thank you, Ms. Begay. Ms. Woody.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Do RDC members, good morning. Yat Epen Anot, Hishita is Aigi. Yat Epen and Hitishiro, Shea, Teresa Woody, A. Giato, RDC, Epic Dashnish, Archer Legislative Assistant, Enishdo, Le Steamboat, De Hoyet, Adequate in Asha, Nana. Adon Enschlenige Tapahan Schlo de Bettlegen, the Bashes Chin Kia Ane, Dash Chedo, Zena Geneta Chanale, a hot o a stan Enschle, Ado, Shias, Mr. Daniels, Yacht, Engine on Hatanadins, and a here la, but oh, Eda honey, oh, Annie. Njano go beha, hasn't it on Janot Deans and here the Schneed or late Adon, the A. General Shin here that do here Mr. Chair, Donny Sido.
Thank you, Ms. Woody. Mr. Chadabeda. Office of Legislative Counsel.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. This is Laureline Tapahi with Office of Legislative Counsel on the line.
Good morning, Ms. Tapahi. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. Mr. Dwight Witherspoon. Honorable Witherspoon, would you introduce yourself, sir?
Yat Shanat, Chairman Nez, this is Dwight Witherspoon. Touching initially, base Bachani buses team, but Tahni Dashache and Scottish Dashanella. Yeah.
Thank you. From Speaker's Office, Ms. Yako. None. We'll go to Office of the President, Vice President. Mr. Filford, are you on?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the RDC and staff. My name is Nikita Kirk, Legislative Staff Assistant for the Office of the Speaker. Thank you for allowing me to come in for the meeting.
Welcome, Ms. Kirk. Good
morning.
Grubbs.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair.
Good morning. Go ahead.
Good morning, Chair. This is Filford from Office of the President, Vice President. Do Telecom, Ebek Edishnido, last two buses tune. I'll be listening in. Good morning. Have a good day.
Thank you, Mr. Pilford. Mr. Grubbs.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, honorable committee members, and special guests, including honorable delegates on the line. This is Brett Grubbs, the general manager for NECA, calling from our headquarters in Shiprock, calling in to answer any questions that anyone may have. Thank you and appreciate the invitation. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Grubbs. Bhuvan Nigran.
Ja, bin Chairman is the RDC committee members and Senegi Teshwas and Ado Tahasof Negido in Shaggy Bove Nagan Shelter Neka Banashnis do these legislation Sozigi ADG and yeah the kid Nasha but then Senegi Jamie Henry the kid Nasha but so horse let the little touching instead of not at was the buses chain though to keep me that's chain not at was just another only Mesa Arizona are at Hasata to Hasklishni Keda in are Hasata to yat aids the Jimmy do les do and Jonoshin as kissing the Hodi Neto Jonas and the Hat Yadas TV that these nations about just case ahead.
Thank you. From PNM, Mr. Ron Darnell. Mr. Darnell. Kathy Newby from PNM. None. Division of Natural Resources. Department of Justice.
I'm sorry, Chairman. Good morning.
Good morning.
Chairman,
Go ahead.
Good morning, Chairman. This is Kathy Newby with PNM. Good morning, Chairman and honorable members of the Resources and Development Committee, guests, staff, and honorable council delegates who are also participating. Yat e bina Kathy Newby and Sheh, Todi Chitni Nishle, Bilagana Bashishi, Tobahi Doshiche, and Bilagana Doshanoli, Tohachi Denasha. Good morning, Chairman. Just wanted to, on behalf of PNM, wanted to introduce ourselves, and Ron Darnell, our Senior Vice President of PNM of our Public Policy Department, will be with us shortly. And also on the line is Pete Kennett City, our PNM Senior Governmental Affairs Manager. So thank you for the opportunity to introduce ourselves, and we'll patiently await our opportunity to provide a presentation to the group. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pete at City. Pete at City. None. Ms. Cheryl Curley, BIA.
Good morning,
Ms. Curley.
Chairman. Good morning. I've been Chairman as RDC members, Cheryl Curley, BIA, Navajo region, listening in today.
Thank you. Anybody else on the call? Please introduce yourself. None. Hakushila. We'll move along here on number 3, reviewing and approving the agenda. Ms. Begay, could you read the agenda for the record, please?
Mr. Chair and members of the Resource Development Committee and the audience that are listening into our meeting and the presenters. Resource Development Committee of the 24th Navajo Nation Council teleconferencing RDC regular meeting July 7, 2021, 10 a.m. This is revised agenda. 1, calling meeting to order, roll call invocation announcement. 2, recognizing guest visiting official. 3, reviewing and approving the agenda. 4, reviewing and approving the journal for June 23rd and June 30th, 2021. 5, receiving report. A, report from the Public Service Company of New Mexico. 6, old business, none. 7, new business. A, legislation 105-21. That should be B. Approving to schedule an RDC special meeting, recommended date July 9th, 2021 at 1 p.m. after the conclusion of the NHA leadership meeting. 8, conclusion of committee meeting, other announcement, adjournment. Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Thank you, Ms. Begay. Honorable members of RDC, let's establish a motion and a second.
Motion, Stewart.
Thank you, Honorable Stewart. Second by
Freeland.
Honorable Freeland. Any questions, amendments to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, this is Delegate Daniel.
Honorable Daniels, you have the floor, sir.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Vice Chair, colleagues, 24 Navajo Nation Council colleagues, accepting the agenda. Maybe amendment number 1 to add under receiving reports, get a report from Eden Technology. Maybe about 10 minutes is at the most, because we have a 1 o'clock meeting. So even for those report date on point in the way that Eden Technologies Incorporated. It's a water purification company. So right now, in the way that Jato and Chimbito area, they're working on a project. So Mr. Chair, thank you.
Honorable Daniels, are you going to make the motion for Amendment 1?
Mr. Chair, yes.
Okay. Is there a second to add the report by Human Technology Incorporated under reports? Is there a
Chairman,
second?
I can second.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Any additions to Amendment 1? Comments?
Mr. Chair,
Honorable Daniels, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chair, it's Eden, EDEN Technology Incorporated.
Could you text that to us? Thank you. There's a correction. Any other comments, questions? None. On Amendment 1, there's an addition to the agenda. A report by Honorable Daniels, Egi Technology Incorporated. Under reports will be B. It will go under B. Any questions? None. Honorable Freeland, how do you vote?
Green.
Honorable Stewart?
Green.
Honorable Begay? Honorable Vice Chair Walker?
Chair, I vote green.
Honorable Daniels?
Green.
Honorable Begay? We have a vote of 4 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting, motion carries. We'll have Eden Technology provide the report. Thank you. Back to the main motion. Any comments or questions? None. Honorable Freeland, how do you vote?
Green.
Honorable Stewart?
Green.
Honorable Begay? Honorable Vice Chair Walker?
I vote green.
Honorable Daniels?
Green.
Honorable Begay? We have a vote of 4 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting, motion carries. We just adopted the agenda with 1 addition. Thank you, honorable colleagues. Number 4, reviewing and approving journals. Yesterday, Ms. Woody sent us the journals for June 23rd and June 30th. We'd like to establish a motion and a second, Jananta.
Chairman, I'll motion.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Second by?
Stewart.
Honorable Stewart, thank you. Any questions, comments, correction on the journals? None? Honorable Freeland, how do you vote? Honorable Stewart?
Green.
Honorable Begay? Honorable Vice Chair Walker.
Green, Chairman. Freeland.
Honorable Freeland votes green. Honorable Vice Chair Walker.
Chair, I vote green.
Honorable Daniels.
Green.
Honorable Begay. We have a vote of 4 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting. Motion carries. We'll approve the journals from June 23 and 30th. Thank you. Moving on down, number 5, receiving reports. Report from Public Service Company of New Mexico. Presenters, Mr. Ron Darnell, Vice President of Public Policy, and Kathy Newby. You have 20 minutes, Mr. Darnell.
Good morning. This is Ron Darnell. I'm the Senior Vice President of Public Policy at Public Service Company of New Mexico, and I'm very happy to be with you today and to share our position in the status of the Four Corners Power Plant abandonment filing. And with me here today is Kathy Newby, and I'll turn it over to Kathy to start.
All right. And thank you, Ron, and again, thank you, members of the committee and all of the guests on the line today. This is part of our efforts to continue to work to keep the Resources and Development Committee up to date and up to speed on some of the current status and industry updates as part of PNM. And most of you may know that we do have 2 huge filings before the New Mexico Public Regulation Commission. And all of you know also that we are regulated by the commission as a business, just as APS and SRP is regulated by the Arizona Corporation Commission in Arizona. And one of the updates that we wanted to present to you today is the status of the Four Corners Power Plant abandonment filing, and then also just touch on the merger that PNM has with Avangrid that is also on file before the commission. And before I do that, I just want to make sure that I'm giving you a little bit of background. In mid-March, last year, the owners of Four Corners Power Plant, including APS, SRP, Tucson Electric Power, PNM, and Navajo Transitional Energy Company, who is an enterprise of the Navajo Nation, agreed in principle on a set of terms and conditions that will allow for seasonal operations of the Four Corners Power Plant beginning in 2024. The agreement also fully considers the needs of a just energy transition for the Navajo Nation and local impacted communities. As many of you know, the Four Corners Power Plant has been an important resource for reliable electricity for nearly 60 years. This agreement will result in an annual reduction of roughly 20 to 25% carbon emissions from the plant, and the decision also minimizes impact to the Navajo Nation, maintains a consistent, viable source of revenue for the nation, and continued jobs for employees through the plant's expected life, allowing for a smooth transition to more sustainable energy resources. And just to give you a breakdown of the current ownership of the plant, APS is the owner-operator and owns 63% of the 2 units. Public Service Company of New Mexico, PNM, owns 13%. Salt River Project owns 10%. Tucson Electric Power owns 7%. And NTEC owns 7%, and through this deal is acquiring PNM's 13% share, which is basically converts to 200 megawatts. The generation capacity at APS is there's 2 big units. There's Unit 4, which produces 770 megawatts, and as does Unit 5, that also produces 770 megawatts for a total capacity of 1,540 megawatts. As many of you also know, the fuel source is the low sulfur coal that is mined nearby by NTEC. The current employee count at the plant is approximately 327 employees, and more than 80% are Native American or Navajo. And at the mine, there's approximately 368 employees, and more than 85% are Native American or Navajo. And so I wanted to also clarify, what does seasonal operation mean? Per the agreement, the plant will transition to a seasonal operation beginning in 2024. And under this operation, a single unit will remain online year-round, and that's subject to market conditions as well as planned maintenance outages and unplanned outages. In addition, the other unit will be operational throughout the summer season of June through October, when customer needs are at the highest, during those summer months to meet a lot of the energy needs across the region. The seasonal operation will result in continued availability of power during peak seasons. There will be no plant and mine employee layoffs. The transition to seasonal operations will not require, as I said, layoffs or furloughs of APS employees. And plans are already in place for the gradual reduction in the APS Four Corners workforce through natural attrition, including retirement. Retention of coal payments to the nation. The existing owners will still remain obligated to the same minimum coal take requirements in the existing contract. And it also allows for community transition support dollars from the Energy Transition Act that was passed by the New Mexico legislature 2 years ago. And that results from the New Mexico PRC approval of PNM's exit in December of 2024 that supports the Navajo Nation and the greater area and affected communities with approximately $17 million available in local community funding. And so when the agreement itself does not change, the other question I want to make sure, or the other piece I want to make sure I'm broaching is the question around when will the Four Corners Power Plant shut down according or per this agreement. So the agreement itself does not change the current anticipated closure date of July 2031. It provides that a 4-year rather than a 2-year notice be provided to NTEC and the nation for any future anticipated closures. And failure to provide a 4-year notice by the other owners would result in additional payments to compensate for lack of adequate notification. And this is important as we strive to ensure plant and mine employees and the local communities have the ability to plan for the futures. This agreement also maintains continued employment and retains the revenues, along with much needed time for the area and for the Navajo Nation to determine their energy sovereignty and address a just and prudent transition from coal. And this the agreements are close to getting completed, but contingent on APS obtaining a FERC approval of the changes, as well as the New Mexico PRC approving our exit of the Four Corners Power Plant. And so this is the process in part that we want to make sure that we're talking to you about. The Energy Transition Act, just to give you a little background on that, establishes New Mexico as a national leader in clean energy. The ETA sets a statewide renewable energy standard of 50% by 2030 for New Mexico for investor-owned utilities like PNM and rural electric cooperatives, and a goal for them of, and we have a goal of 80% by 2040. So in addition to setting zero carbon resources standards for investor-owned utilities, we're shooting for 100% of that by 2045. The law transitions New Mexico away from coal and towards clean energy, ensuring greater renewable energy production and reducing the costs for a lot of our consumers. But to successfully complete this agreement, PNM has filed what is called the abandonment filing. And again, that is subject to the approval by the New Mexico Public Regulatory Commission, as I covered, has oversight of PNM. And actually, PNM's sale to NTEC is a critical part of providing for the seasonal operation to move forward. And denial of this agreement by the PRC would result in this agreement not being able to close. So I'm going to turn it over. I wanted to make sure I provided you some background. And Chairman, if there aren't any questions at this point, I will turn it over to Ron to talk a little bit more about the abandonment filing.
Okay, thank you. You have 10 minutes, so Mr. Darnell, continue.
Sure, thank you, Kathy. And really, I won't take 10 minutes. We'll have time for any questions for sure. But the abandonment filing that Kathy mentioned was made on January 8th of 2021. And it really is straightforward. It asks for permission for two things. The first is that PNM be given permission to abandon its minority interest, which is 200 megawatts of Four Corners. It's about 13% of the total generating capacity. So that's the first thing it asks for, abandonment of that capacity. The second thing it seeks is securitized financing of the transition cost, and this is pursuant to the Energy Transition Act. And this is important because this is where the funding comes from the state-administered tribal and community programs. So it's important that the commission approve this application to not only allow for the abandonment or for PNM's abandonment and transfer of the 200 megawatts to NTEC, but also to provide the funds for these community programs and tribal programs that really do provide for a just transition. There will be a hearing in this filing, or this docket we call it, and that hearing commences on August 31st of this year and is slated to go through September 14th. There are a number of interveners, including San Juan County, the Sierra Club, San Juan Citizens Alliance, Dene Care, and several others. An important opportunity and event takes place on August 30th, so the day before the hearing is to start, and that's for public comment. That begins again at 9:30 a.m. on August 30, 2021, and interested persons who are not affiliated with a party to the case can make oral or written comment. And the oral comments will be limited to 3 minutes per commentator, but we would welcome your support in any form. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, for this opportunity, and Kathy and I will stand for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Darnell. Honorable members of RDC, let's establish a motion and a second.
Chairman, I motion.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Second by?
Stewart.
Honorable Stewart. Thank you. Honorable members of RDC, do you have any questions or comments for PNM? Kiddish. Kathy, could you provide the committee a written report on what you reported on today?
Chairman, absolutely. As soon as I get back to my computer, I will send that to Shami and to you to disperse to the committee members.
Okay, thank you.
And Chairman, we also, if we have just a minute or two, we want to just also provide a quick update on the other filing, which is the PNM Avangrid merger, if we have a few minutes left.
Okay, go ahead and proceed then.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. PNM announced several months ago of a merger with Avangrid, which is a company that's headquartered in Orange, Connecticut, and it's backed by actually the third largest utility in the world, Iberdrola, and it's about an $8 billion transaction. Avangrid, through Iberdrola, would purchase all of the outstanding shares of PNMR stock, plus pay off all of PNM's existing debt. They bring to the table a much stronger balance sheet than PNM has, and the ability to finance this transition to a cleaner energy portfolio in a way that is less costly, will save customers money. But to begin with, the merger offers $73 million of rate benefits. That is a sum of actual rate credits to all of our customers, as well as an additional $10 million of low-income energy efficiency benefits. We are committed to another $200 million over 3 years of economic development benefits, and the creation of a carbon reduction task force, and bringing on a chief environmental officer to our leadership team as a show of good faith in terms of the transition. The stipulation will calls to maintain 100% of PNM jobs, no reductions of wages or benefits for 3 years following the transaction at a minimum. PNM will continue to be managed locally, and none of the costs of the merger will be passed on to customers. All those costs will be absorbed by shareholders. Once again, there will be a hearing. It will commence August 11th and go through the 20th, with public comment scheduled for August the 9th at 9 a.m. And once again, PNM would welcome all the support you can get for the merger. I think it really is in the best interest of all of our stakeholders, as well as the state of New Mexico. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, and again, we stand for any questions on this merger.
And Chairman, very quickly, just wanted to add that during this a 3-year period, if this merger were to be approved by the commission, that there would be no PNM job reductions for a minimum of 3 years following the actual transaction, and the PNM would still be locally managed, and you would still know us and feel us as PNM. And just the continued commitment out of the Public Policy Department of a tribal relations department and team that will stay steady throughout that process. I just wanted to note that. And again, just timing, August is going to be a busy month for us, because we have the hearing for the abandonment filing, and then we also have the hearing for the merger that actually comes first. So we thought it was just to make important that we get out in front of RDC and members of the Navajo Nation, guests and council, to be able to give you an update on both of these filings. And we appreciate the opportunity, Chairman and members of the Resources and Development Committee.
Thank you. Honorable members of RDC, do you have any questions or comments? I would like to just express my appreciation to PNM for having to always make contributions for our children along San Juan River here, the local chapters, as far as our children attending science fairs and other scholarship funding and sports funding that you guys provided. I just want to say thank you very much.
Mr. Chair. Thank you for that, sir. It is definitely our our pleasure to fund those programs and particularly to make the contribution to the youth of the nation. So thanks again for that recognition.
Thank you. Honorable members of RDC, any questions?
Chairman Freeland.
Honorable Freeland.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Darnell and Ms. Newby, thank you. Wanted to also say thank you as well for the many contributions that PNM has made and continue to make. And you know, I appreciate the presentation, especially on the issue of jobs. I guess I do have a question, and it does relate to the ETA and just an overall picture. How has in your thoughts, how has the ETA benefited, you know, the area, the communities, but also more importantly, the Navajo people? Has it been beneficial to many of our people, in your thoughts? Because I asked this question because, you know, there's still a long way to go on that ETA, and you know, how are we going to address the many challenges still, that the underlying challenges that we still have, you know, especially when we have to retrain new, you know, retrain workers into new areas of work. So I just wanted to ask that question, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Freeland. Mr. Darnell, Ms. Newby, your response.
Yes, Honorable Delegate Freeland, thank you for the question, and it's a good question. And you're exactly right in the sense that the Energy Transition Act is still, if you will, a work in progress. And it was applied initially to the closure of San Juan Generating Station. That is still on track and still going to close in June of 2022. And once the closure of the plant takes place, then the ETA components of the funding will begin to kick in. And again, that is put forth by a task force, if you will, an Energy Transition Act committee. And I know the Navajo Nation has participation in that committee. And I think, for one thing, COVID has kind of slowed down a little bit the efforts of the committee, but I think they last met in October of, the last I saw was October 2019, but I think may have met sooner than that. And that is really the committee that is really assigned to designate and understand how the funding will be put forth. And that is put forth by the Department of Economic Development, the Department of Workforce Solutions, and the Indian Affairs Department. And that was intentionally set up to allow other third-party entities to handle the disbursement and how that funding would best be used. And I know the Energy Transition Act Committee is also charged with that responsibility.
Thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome.
Honorable members of RDC, do you have any other comments or questions for PNM? None.
Chairman, can you hear me?
PNM, we would like for you to send us the written report to the committee. Send it to Ms. Begay, and then she'll distribute it to the committee members.
Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Who's this?
Hi, Chairman. This is. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Oh,
Who's
thank you,
this?
Chairman. This is Speaker Damon.
Okay. Honorable Speaker Damon, welcome. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning. I've been listening in, and I was waiting for this the presentation there. Good morning to midday to you, Chairman, and members of the Resource and Development Committee, and everybody else that's on the line. Good morning again. Good to hear your voice, Mr. Darnell, and always good to hear your voice, Ms. Newby. I had a question regarding both of the presentations that are going to be done at the end of August. My first question is that when those presentations are deliberated and given to the PRC, and at the end of the day, if it is not completed, and what you're saying right now is not completed, and the transfer is not approved by the PRC, what is the steps that P&M is going to take after that? That's my first question. And then the second question is, per the recommendation, I think that it should be the Navajo Nation's position to really say that if we're going to lean in to gain 13% more of an interest rate of the APS power plant, how much more effort should we be helping assist in making sure that the Navajo Nation, or in this case NTEC, gets that apportionment? And what is there anything from our side that we should do to help assist in making sure that crosses the finish line? Those are my two questions right now, Mr. Darnell and Ms. Newby, and thank you, Mr. Chair, for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker Damon. Mr. Darnell, Ms. Newby.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Speaker, for that question. I'll do my best to answer the parts that I can. In terms of the next, or what would happen if for some reason the New Mexico Public Regulatory Commission did not approve the abandonment? To be just really honest, we haven't really thought about that a whole lot. I mean, I guess that we would be sort of in a status quo at this point. It may impact the seasonal operation. It wouldn't be good. It wouldn't be a good outcome for P&M and its customers, and it wouldn't be a good outcome for the Navajo Nation. And I say that, it's hard to understand how the PRC wouldn't approve this, because the abandonment will save our customers close to $100 million. And then, of course, the abandonment doesn't call for the closure of the plant. It's just a transfer of our ownership. But because the abandonment is filed under the Energy Transition Act, those community dollars will kick in when the plant is abandoned in 2024. So it's sort of a win-win. It doesn't impact the ultimate life of the Four Corners power plant. APS has made it very clear that they intend to operate that plant through 2031. But yet, with P&M's exit, the ETA provisions for just transition dollars kick in. So it seems like it would be a real travesty if the commission would not approve the abandonment. But having said that, it's so important, again, to support it with your public comments. It would be really appreciated. I think it would go a long way to a successful conclusion of the docket. Kathy, would something you'd like to add to that?
Yes, and Speaker, thank you again for the question. I think it's also important to note that once a case is filed with the PRC, any of our P&M staff leaders are not allowed to talk about the case with the 5 commissioners. And so that's just the rules of the ex parte rules. And if any entity officially intervenes in the case, they also are not allowed to talk specifically to any commissioner about the case. And just to note to the leadership that because the nation chose or did not intervene, and if you choose to move forward with public comment, that allows you the opportunity not only in public comment, but allows you to be able to contact any member of the commission because you are not an official intervener, to be able to discuss, talk, anything about this case, Speaker. So, and Chairman, I wanted just to make sure we noted that.
Thank you very much. Honorable Speaker Damon, do you have a follow-up question, sir?
Thank you very much, Chairman. Can you hear me again?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Mr. Darnell and Ms. Newby for clarifying that initiative. So I think it's prevalent then, since the nation hasn't put its weight or interest in this, then it should be, maybe a letter should be coming from, if possible, from Resource and Development Committee or from the Speaker's office to push the suggestion and making sure that we add on some comments onto that during the comment period when it does open. So that's just a suggestion, Chairman. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker Damon. Perhaps I could request a legislation on my end, since P&M is just right here in my backyard, and put out that supporting position from the Navajo Nation. So thank you. Honorable members of RDC, any other questions or comments? Let me go back to the presenters, Mr. Darnell, Ms. Newby. I'd like to have your closing statement.
Chairman, honorable members of the committee, speaker, and guests and other delegates, we thank you for this opportunity. I wanted to make two specific notes in relation to the comments on our PNM work within the Navajo community. We continue our Navajo Nation Workforce Scholarship Program, and we have put forth $1.1 million over since 2013. In partnership with the Navajo Nation and Navajo Technical University and San Juan College. And we will continue that program for another, at least from this point that we know of, for another 5 years. And just very proud of that collaboration and the number of students that have graduated from that program, from those programs. And I also wanted to just note that we have also come back aboard in 2022 for the Light Up Navajo project in collaboration with Navajo Tribal Utility Authority. We'll be sending crews out next year to continue those efforts to aid in providing electricity to those Navajo homes that are in dire need of that. I wanted to make those two comments, Chairman, and turn it over to Ron for his comments.
Mr. Darnell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I don't have much to add to what Kathy just said. We appreciate the opportunity to address the committee today and ask for your support in these two filings. We're very proud of our relationship and our collaborative relationship with you and the Navajo Nation. I'll put a plug in for Light Up Navajo. It's one of the best opportunities of my entire career. And so I'm looking forward to a restarting of that program in 2022. So thank you again. I again appreciate this time.
Thank you, Mr. Darnell. Honorable members of RDC, any other comments or questions? We'll go ahead and move to approve the report from PNM. Honorable Freeland, how do you vote?
Green.
Honorable Stewart?
Green.
Honorable Begay?
Chairman Kelly votes green.
Honorable Vice Chair Walker?
I vote green.
Honorable Daniels?
Green.
We have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting, motion carries. We accepted the report. Thank you, Mr. Darnell, Ms. Newby.
Thank you, sir. Again, we appreciate this.
Okay, thank you. Next on the report, we have B, a report by Eden Technologies Incorporated. And we'll have Mr. Stephen Proquet present. Mr. Proquet?
Hello, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you all.
You have 20 minutes.
What's that?
You have 20 minutes.
Okay, thank you. And I want to thank you all for letting us present here today. Would it be possible to share a presentation with you all?
Yes, please send it to Ms. Begay so it can be forwarded to us. Thank you.
Would I be able to share a screen while I present?
I'm sure you could.
Okay.
For those who have access to it, so.
All right, let me get this opened up here. All right. So again, my name is Stefan Proque. I am the head of business development and community relationships for Eden Technologies. What we are a reverse osmosis desalination technology company based right here out of St. George, Utah. Sorry there, had a little technical difficulties. So we started with our CEO, Hunter Mans, identified while in college here a need for desalination processes around the world, mostly in the instance of oceanic desalination. He has drawn the attention of some folks over in the Middle East, including the Saudi royal family. And I came on board about a year ago. One of my friends who worked here had identified the need across the Navajo Nation. And I decided to start taking a lot of personal interest as I grew up a lot around this area. A lot of my, close friends are from the Navajo Nation. And so I'm well aware of the issues that are out there. And so about a year ago, I sent an email out literally to all 110 chapters. I just went on the website and, did a random shot in the dark and came back with Jerry Williams, who has been very helpful to us in all of this process. He is the former Lachii president, as I'm sure all of you know. And since then, we have been talking to specifically the Oljeto chapter, as well as the Chilchimbito chapter. We just submitted our first rough budget outline to the Oljeto chapter. This plant will be located just south of the St. Mary's Church. This plant is anticipated to create about 142,000 gallons of clean water every day. This at the current reported rate of 7 gallons of use per day by the average Navajo citizen. This translates roughly to being able to serve 20,000 people, or at the use of 150 gallons a day, could serve about 1,000 homes every day. Sorry, there, wrong way. So what's unique about our technology as opposed to any other reverse osmosis technology is we are the first working centrifuge for desalination, meaning that with the motion of the centrifuge, we can reduce the energy consumption almost exponentially, as opposed to anything else on the market, just because of the centrifugal motion of the device. We also, what makes us different from standard most small scale reverse osmosis systems is, rather than using your standard reverse osmosis filters, we are going to use cross flow filtration systems. So in a standard system, the water just goes straight down and through, and you generally see a buildup, as you'll see on this stream on the left, that will require the filters to be replaced almost annually. Whereas with a cross-flow filter, we should be able to see nearly a 3-year lifespan between the changing of these membranes. And this will allow us to be a zero discharge we will have a standard reverse osmosis system set up at the first stage of this plant. And that will then move into our centrifuge, allowing us to pull out more fresh water. We should get about a 95% freshwater return, with 5% of that water being the brine. And we will move that to an agriculture tank where that can be treated. There will be different backflow phases to allow collection of the precious minerals such as uranium and vanadium if those are wished to be sold. There will be other backflow processes to remove things such as arsenic as well. And this is what creates a zero discharge plant. We have also identified rock gap engineering through the help of Jerry Williams. They are a longstanding general contracting and engineering firm based out of Phoenix, Arizona, and Albuquerque, New Mexico. We are working closely with them to also help design this plant schematic and to have everything meet EPA, NNEPA, and NTUA standards. We have another partnership with a startup that shares the same office space with us here at the college called Sun Homes. They will be supplying solar energy for this plant. It should be about a 1 megawatt plant, meaning it should take about 1 acre of a solar field next to the plant. This will allow us to be a net zero carbon emission. What sets Sun Homes differently from other solar options is they do complete off-grid utility systems, including solar, water, septic, solar thermal, and geothermal systems. So this allows them also to potentially be used on the reservation for other projects aside from what we are doing. But their system has a unique power management feature to them that rather than a standard solar system where you can generally only warranty it between 5 and 10 years, and will almost surely have to replace it within that time, theirs can be warranted for 20 to 25 years simply because of the way that they're able to actually manage their power systems. I would then like to talk about NatureSolve. They are our partner to handle a lot of the post-treatment and agricultural water. They make a bacterial and fungal compound that is suspended in molasses. It's OMRI certified as organic and EPA certified and listed as safe to discharge in waterways and soil. They will be in the agriculture tank when applied to farmlands. We have seen in our alpha study a reduction in soil or fertilizer use in crops by almost 70%, and the amount of water needed to create those same fruitful crops by 30%. This was within about a 6 to 12 week period. They are an awesome partner. They are based out of Salt Lake City. They will also be helping us design those post-treatment backflow systems that I had mentioned before to help us identify and harvest any minerals. We would like to also try and open a conversation potentially with the NNEPA as well as the Superfund mine cleanup sites around there to discuss potential methods of disposal if we are not producing enough minerals to justify selling them. But if that is the case where we can sell them, then we are currently identifying different labs and other places that might be interested in purchasing these minerals. Otherwise, as far as a waste disposal process, that is a conversation we would like to have about potentially safely securing and disposing of these minerals in barrels within some of the abandoned mine sites throughout the reservation. I want to take a quick pause here if anyone has any questions as well.
Just continue until you're done, sir, and then we'll make a motion and ask questions. Thank you.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you. So ISI water is the last component about this. That first stage reverse osmosis treatment, they also use cross-flow filters. Theirs is just a standard reverse osmosis system. That should get us the initial first about 75% of that fresh water from the source. Their wastewater stream will then flow into our centrifuge. And that is where, again, we will pull that remaining 20% of that fresh water. And then our output would be that highly concentrated brine, which would flow into the aforementioned post processes. So this increases this fresh water recovery of the plant. And the thing that is unique about these plants as well is that these can be standalone fill stations. We would like to identify existing well sites, just like we did in Oljeto and Chilchimbito, where there are ones that are no longer in use. We can also find areas where there are ones that are in use. One that we have been interested in is the fill station in the Aneth chapter located across from the elementary school, where very minimal service or revision would be needed done to that site. And rather we could almost plug and play, so to speak, onto that site and begin producing fresh water within a matter of months. These plants can also be tailored and designed to connect into existing or new municipal infrastructure, if that is what the desired outcome is for each plant. And so here on this slide, you'll see this is just a basic concept drawing of what the plant would look like, starting from the well site at the top left, flowing into the ISI pretreatment stage. You see from the bottom of it is the fresh stream that flows into the Naturosolve post-treatment and its waste stream into our centrifuge, where again, there's another line going for freshwater storage, and then through post-treatment and then into the agricultural water storage, which will be treated with the Naturosolve product. And then the freshwater it will have a post-treatment process to add the necessary minerals such as calcium and magnesium back into the water to make sure it is safe for human consumption, as well as simply flavorful and nutritious for the Navajo people. And then off to the left, you'll see the large orange square is the solar and battery provided by Sun Homes. And the water tanks will be, the sizes will be determined based on the community need. Since most of the water coming out will be just potable fresh water, we can easily, just through gravity feeding pipes, evenly distribute that between the agricultural and potable water outputs. Our desired impact of this project, the healthier, happier individuals and communities is very much drawn from what we have found that the cancer rates, especially relating to arsenic, low dose but long exposure of arsenic, as well as uranium and vanadium. The cancers include gallbladder, kidney, stomach, bladder, and pancreatic cancer across the Navajo Nation are almost double the national average. With Naturosolve especially, we would like to see greater crop yields. We know that there's currently being done the livestock roundup. It would be ideal for us to see fruitful crops so that people can resume raising livestock and growing crops for more than just sustaining their own family, but rather to even be able to create successful economy. And then, of course, more individual free time and freedom based on the lesser need to have to go to these fill stations that are currently on the reservation, by hopefully making more of these more accessible to people and creating enough water resources that people aren't limited to these 250 gallons or so every so many days to split between their families. And that is everything that I have. This is the website link to all of the partners that have been mentioned here. I don't have on these slides my personal information, but if you would like, my email address is just my first name, Stephan, which is STEPHAN at edentechinc.com. That same URL you see at the bottom. And my personal cell phone number is 435-313-7420. Again, 435-313-7420. And at this time, I'm done and open to any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Proquet. Honorable members of RDC, let's establish a motion and a second.
Chair, this is Daniel.
Honorable Daniels, motion, second by,
Chair, I'll second that.
Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Thank you very much. Are there any comments or questions? Naidos Kiddush.
Mr. Chair, this is Daniel.
Honorable Daniels, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, for the Resources and Development Committee members for the I appreciate that the presentation that is made today before RDC by Eden Technologies Incorporated. I want to say thank you to Mr. Bouquet. Thank you for doing your report and also update to RDC. I know you mentioned two areas that you're working on. Monument Valley, Ojeto, that area that's close to the St. Mary's Catholic Church. I'm very familiar with that area, and with that well. I know that when they did work on the Skyline Mine, they utilized that well, that particular well that you're alluded to. So my question would be that what other areas on the Navajo Nation are you going to be working on or proposing to be working on? So that's my number one question. And my number two question would be, I know that Dr. Tommy Rock, he did some water sampling in this area, in Ojeto area, other areas throughout the Navajo Nation. And one area that he was working on is Monument Valley Tribal Park. Yeah, within the Monument Valley Tribal Park, there's no infrastructure. There's no water line, no power line. It's all because it's within the tribal park boundary. So he was working on a natural spring, the sand springs. He was working on that to get water for Navajo families within the Monument Valley Tribal Park area. So I know in Monument Valley there's a lot of there used to be a lot of mines back in the 50s around Ojeto, within Monument Valley, around Monument Valley Tribal Park. Also east of the Monument Valley, the old BCA mine. There used to be some mines back then, but right now they're all closed. So the funding that you're working with, and I'm so thankful that you didn't mention ARPA. So, what funding are you going to be working with? That's my question to you. And I appreciate that you working with the Ojeto chapter and also the Chibito chapter as well. So thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Daniels.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Daniels, for your question. Let me go back to Mr. Proquet. Your response, sir.
Yes, thank you both. So to start by addressing first question of what areas we're working on, again, we have the current resolution with the Ojeto chapter for that first location. And then there is an area outside of the Chilchimbito chapter house where there's a large 155,000 gallon or 162,000 gallon water tank that is currently sitting there. I guess some years ago, a well was drilled. There are 3 7.5 horsepower motors still sitting there. And we would like to attach to that. The issue with that well was that the arsenic content was too high. And so that is what we're going to go there and address. Other areas that we currently would like to talk to would be the Aneth chapter, as well as the Kaibito chapter. We have heard may have some interest in what we are doing. But we are willing to work in any and all areas where people are interested in our technology. We have also met our friend and now Indigenous Policy Advisor, Daryl Begay. He normally lives in LA, but has currently been staying over in the New Mexico area with family. And he has been very helpful in helping us identify different funding sources for these as well, including finding out which chapters have or have not submitted ARPA proposals, and how we can get aligned with the ARPA projects as they're getting submitted. But he is also very skilled and helpful in helping us identify alternative sources if any of the chapters have not submitted these ARPA proposals, as well as just finding different ways that we can fund these using the federal grant dollars that are currently available for projects out there. One second. The one thing that we are needing to draw these accurate quotes for any of the projects, if there are wells, for example, that any of these chapters would like submitted, if we can find accurate and updated well driller logs, that has been something we've been working with Tommy Rock to try and identify. So there is, and Daryl as well has been helping us try and pull these reports because the USGS current data, some of the most recent studies we can find for well logs are almost 20 years old. But Tommy Rock says that there should be updated information somewhere within the reservation that we should be able to find the information. And so if there are recent well drillers logs, so we can find out things such as the depth of the well recharge rate, and the content of the water, this would prevent us from having to do an initial hydrology study potentially. But that is the first piece of drawing any accurate quote for any of these chapters. If that information is not on hand, then we would have to do individual hydrology reports on each proposed well. And as far as the Monument Valley and Tribal Park area, again, I know that there's a lot to go through because of that land being the way that it is. We would be happy to put our plant there, but we would want to make sure, of course, that it meets all standards and approvals so that we could build out there and respect the landscape that is there as well. And that is why we heavily would like to rely on Sun Homes, because rather than drawing power lines that cost nearly $1 million per mile of power line drawn, we can simply attach these solar fields and have the power right there, so that this way there's no power lines also just impeding that view and that cost of infrastructure resources. Did I think that accurately addressed all the questions? Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Proke, could you send us your PowerPoint presentation, please? We would appreciate that very much.
Absolutely.
Honorable members of RDC, any other comments or questions? None?
This is Ben.
Who's this?
Delegate Daniels. Almost said Dr. Daniels.
Honorable Daniels, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to Mr. Proque. Thank you very much. I really appreciate what you guys are doing for our Navajo people, getting good water. And also, I'm thinking on this side, I'm also thinking about these livestock, how to get water for them as well. On another thing is, on the Navajo Nation, there used to be mines, uranium mines here and there. I know that Old Jato, Monument Valley is one of them, and also Cove area is another one. Shiprock and also Cameron, and there's some in New Mexico. So are you guys looking to areas like that for our Navajo people to get good water for them? I know that water is very needed right now because of the drought that we're in. People are looking for good water. When you go to these NTUA offices, you'll see long lines of vehicles. People, Navajo families, trying to get water. And some people, they go to these windmills. So, Mr. Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels. Mr. Proke, your response, sir?
Thank you both. So again, right now, as it stands, Jerry Williams, our friend Pete Sands of Aneth chapter, as well as Daryl Begay have been crucial for us to get in contact with any of these chapters. We would like to work with any chapter where there is the need. It has just been a matter of us basically finding the contact information for those people and then scheduling meetings with them. And so we are open to any and all chapters where this could serve benefit in those communities. And so, again, if any of you would like to send me an email or text my phone or call me anytime to set up meetings, we would love to go out there and meet, personally, face to face with every chapter where we could benefit.
Thank you, Mr. Proke. Honorable members of RDC, any other comments or questions?
Chairman.
Honorable Vice Chair Walker, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. The presenters, Mr. Proke, appreciate you coming to the committee and giving information on the technologies relating to water, human use water, domestic use water, safe, clean drinking water. So appreciate the information. There would really be helpful to have material to look at and to see and so forth. We're still, I guess, awaiting your presentation to be sent to us. So we'll just have to envision and imagine what your information is. But I'd like to go back to the part where you mentioned uranium and other heavy metals that are filtered out of the water, the raw water from the ground, the process you use, and then how what you filter out, say like uranium, how that's going to be handled or treated or transported or disposed of. As we all know, Navajo Nation banned uranium mining, uranium extraction from the earth, whether if it's raw through the rocks or dirt or water. So it sounds like this is somehow extracting uranium from the earth, although it's water, and it's not for the intention of getting uranium out of the ground. This is for water. But still, the water you extract or pump out still will contain uranium. And then there is a prohibition on transporting uranium on the Navajo Nation roads. So that's a tribal law that was put into place a number of years ago. So just thinking about that, and if you can go back to that part, how your plans to handle or transport or dispose of things like uranium. And then you talk about, so you mentioned something about buyers, people buying what you extract, what you filter out. That sounds very complicated there. Chairman, those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Mr. Proke, your response?
Thank you very much, Mr. Walker. So I was not aware of how the bans and things like that worked. And so we would need to identify proper removal of it, because if even the transportation of it is banned, then if we can identify basically who we might need to talk to, because again, so when in the post-treatment phase, as this water comes out of our centrifuge, the waste will be sent through these cartridge filters. And as there's buildup along those, that is the filters where the uranium would be caught. There will be an automated backflow process that would then eject those into a separate holding tank. And so we would just have to try and identify and determine what the best way then to remove or dispose of those are. And again, the initial thought and intention behind it was that if these minerals are valuable, although it's a moot point at this point, if they would be valuable to the Navajo people, then we would find a way to, allow, since that's your metal, the Navajo people to sell it. But if that is not a viable option, then that's where that conversation I was saying I would like to have. Specifically, we've identified Daryl Yazzie of the Navajo EPA about there's a current Superfund cleanup site and project within the Navajo Nation that perhaps we could join forces with to discuss the safe handling and disposal of these materials. Because obviously the very last thing that we want is to be putting it back into any water or soil. And so if we can find a way to remove it safely so that people have this clean drinking water, as well as taking it away from the soil, that would be ideal. Also, our partner company, NatureSolve, has experience with the remediation of various mine sites for things such as lead, arsenic, and uranium leaching into soil. What it does is, as it interacts with the soil's biology, it will actually push that uranium further down into the soil. And so the byproducts of NatureSolve treated water, for example, if you put it into used motor oil, you'll see it almost looks like a creamy coffee, and it becomes a very spongy material that is now safe to, it's actually listed as a type of topsoil, and you can discharge it straight into waterways or into the soil. And with heavy metals like uranium, it just pushes them further down into the soil, so that it takes it farther away from the range where it can affect human health by creating a fertile topsoil above it. And so the complexity just of this removal is completely contingent on the amount of TDS and what is in each individual water source. Again, Old Jato chapter is our first one where we've heard there may be uranium contamination. But again, that all will depend upon the hydrology report. And then for Chilchimbito chapter, it seems that the only thing we are worrying about in that water source at this time is arsenic, but we are still going to test for uranium to see if there's any there, and then we will go accordingly from there. And as far as the presentation materials, I just need the email address to send it to, and I'll have my colleague who's sitting here with me send that over immediately to be sent out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Proque. Honorable members of RDC, any other comments or questions? None? Thank you, Mr. Proque. We'll go ahead and accept the report. Honorable Freeland, how do you vote? Honorable Stewart?
Green.
Honorable Begay? Honorable Vice Chair Walker?
Chair, I vote green.
Honorable Daniels?
Green.
Honorable Freeland? Honorable Begay? We have a vote of 3 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting, motion carries. We'll accept the report by Eden Technologies Incorporated. Thank you, Mr. Proque. Have a good day.
Thank you. You as well.
Thank you. Old business, none. Number
Chairman
7.
Kiala votes green.
Okay. Honorable Kiala Begay Jr. votes green. We have a vote of 4 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting. Motion carries. Thank you. Number 6, old business, there's none. Number 7, new business, legislation 0105-21. Honorable Chairman Henio, are you on the call, sir? Honorable Henio.
That's a mute there. Just
Okay. Okay, thank you. Ms. Begay, could you read the legislation in for the record, please?
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, you have legislative summary sheet for tracking number 0105-21. The date on it is June 30th, 2021. The title of the resolution is an action relating to resource development, budget and finance, Navajo committees, and to the Navajo Nation Council, appropriating $529,850 in citizen funds to the Commission on Navajo Government Development for the Navajo and the Leadership Building, approving Navajo 1 and Leadership Building expenditure plan pursuant to 12 NNC 2501 through 2508. The legislation is assigned to Resource Development, Budget and Finance Committee, Navajo and the Navajo Nation Council. Prime sponsor of the legislation is Honorable Jamie Henyo. The legislation was posted on the council website on June 30th, 2021, and became eligible for committee consideration on July 6, 2021. Again, this legislation will be read into the record at the Navajo Nation Council. And the packet was emailed to you. There are exhibits that are referenced in the content of the legislation. Those exhibits are attached to the packet that it was sent out to you this morning when we received the updated document. There are diagrams of the in the packet as well. You will go to page 42 of 51 pages on the Internet Public Review summary there. It will indicate the a 5-day comment period ended on July 5th. There were 4 comments that were received in support of the legislation. 1 comment was received opposing the legislation. Those written comments are all attached to the packet. And there was also another comment received, and the comment was attached, the written comment is attached to the updated document, which is dated July 7th, 2021. Mr. Chair, members of the RDC members, you have this legislation packet before you. Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Thank you, Ms. Begay. Honorable members of RDC, let's establish a motion and a second.
Motion, Daniel.
Honorable Daniels, thank you. Second by
I'll second, Chair.
Honorable Vice Chair Walker, thank you very much. This legislation comes before us, RDC, and then it'll go to Budget and Finance Committee, and then Nabakia Committee, and the full Navajo Nation Council. Do you have any questions? None? We'll go ahead and vote on the legislation. Honorable Freeland?
Green,
Honorable
Chairman.
Stewart? Honorable Freeland?
Green. Green.
Thank you. Honorable Stewart?
Green.
Honorable Begay?
Chairman Taylor votes green. Thank you.
Honorable Vice Chair Walker?
Chair, I vote green.
Honorable Daniels?
Green.
We have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting. Motion carries for legislation 0105-21. Honorable Chairman Henyo?
If Chairman is other Resource Development Committee, Kehla for your votes, and Lynn, not so able to see if Budget and Finance over not on I don't know case here. I be go Kehla. This is Silla, I'll get Wilson Stewart and Keha. She kind of get on legislation 91-21. Edot and the Nassau case of Ziho. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman Henyo. We're on to B, approving to schedule an RDC special meeting July 9th at 1 p.m. after the conclusion of NHA leadership meeting. Ms. Begay, is this just a special meeting?
Hold on. Mr. Chair and members of the committee, you know that the NHA 2022 Indian Housing Plan. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, the Indian Housing Plan has critical timelines. When they first contacted RDC, they explained to RDC that they need to have the legislation approved and submitted by the week of the July 12th. So we do have a work session scheduled on Friday with NHA to present a summary of the Indian Housing Plan that is attached to the legislation that is now ready for RDC. So Thomas Walker requested for a special meeting, and he's the sponsor of the legislation. That legislation is ready for RDC, and that is the reason why that request was added to the RDC meeting agenda today. Mr. Chair, if you would like to give the floor to Vice Chair Thomas Walker, he can expound on that.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Begay, for that. It's understandable that we do have a special meeting that day, so we'd like to entertain a motion and a second. Motion?
Chair, I'll motion.
Who's this? Motion?
Delegate Daniels.
Honorable Daniels, thank you. Second by?
I'll second that, Chair.
Okay. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, you have the floor, sir.
Okay, thank you, Chair and committee members and our staff section, then the audience. Leader, special meeting don't for RDC to consider the 2022 Indian Housing Plan for NHA. Last week dropped last Friday. If I had dropped it earlier, it's a day to consider that legislation. It'll be ready tomorrow for consideration. Friday, RDC to have this special meeting in the afternoon. And of course, I would ask for your support considering the question.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Any comments or questions? None. None. We'll go ahead and accept the scheduling of this meeting, special meeting for July 9 at 1 o'clock. Honorable Freeland, how do you vote?
Green, Chairman.
Thank you. Honorable Stewart?
Green.
Honorable Begay?
Chairman Keller votes green.
Honorable Vice Chair Walker?
Chair, I vote green.
Honorable Daniels?
Green.
Thank you. We have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed. Chair not voting, motion carries. Number 8 on the agenda, conclusion of our committee meeting. For your dedication to the Navajo Nation and serving your committees. Do you have any other announcements?
Chairman.
Honorable Vice Chair Walker.
A question to our staff. Next week, the drought assessment tour. Do we have an itinerary ready for RDC to look at? That's my question. Thank you.
Ms. Begay?
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I did reached out to Department of Division of Natural Resource, Department of Agriculture, Department of Fish and Wildlife, BIA, and Department of Water Resources. On June 23rd, I sent them an email of what was discussed by RDC and what was expected to happen during this drought tour. Since then, no one has responded. And so therefore I don't have a schedule, but I will continue to work on it and get you a schedule hopefully by tomorrow, if not as early as Friday morning. I do know that based on the directive given by Chairman Naz that the tour would begin from Telecom and through Loop, Cameron, and then Tuba City. So we will be starting from, that will be the starting point in Telecom. And so I will send you an itinerary at least hopefully by Friday morning. I know that we did mention the horseback ride and also the regular meeting. And according to the conversation we all had last week during the discussion, that those meetings be canceled. So we did reschedule the water rights back down to the 26th. So that was moved. Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Thank you, Ms. Begay. Honorable Stewart.
Christian Shania. I just wanted to make an announcement, Shania, that 2 years ago, when we went to Red Lake chapter to hear the presentation on the NFPI project cleanup that they were trying to raise funds for, that this spring, Navajo EPA, as we have been told, got the award from the Brownsfield to start some cleanup. So that cleanup is going to start this week, Shania. That's why I was at Red Lake yesterday morning. The US EPA has moved in, or is moving in, and they're going to start tearing down the kiln that was still standing, removing the asbestos, and they're going to be testing the concrete there for asbestos. And then whatever's cleaned, or whatever they do clean, that concrete then will be ready to get crumbled, and then be used for the community's use for either a road or the new chapter house that they're proposing to start building just east of the current chapter house that we were sitting in at that time. So, and then also we've been continuing to work with Office of President, Vice President, also EPA, the Foundation EPA, to seek additional funding to continue the cleanup on that area, as well as the development within the community. So I just want to report that much on that project. Now, I know that we said that we're going to go back up there through RDC before the pandemic, but that's just an update that I want to give my brothers, my uncle, and Shamayajika on this project that we went to go see for now.
Thank you, Honorable Stewart. Honorable Kealan Begay.
Chairman, I was over at one of the chapter meetings this morning. Tomorrow the Chinle agency grazing officials are meeting at the Chinle chapter. Could we possibly help them get BIA natural resource, the Navajo Nation natural resource, in person to provide an update about the situation, the drought? I think we really need to help our grazing officials be provided update. I guess some areas are getting to the situation is getting bad. Dealing with water for livestock, and then even wildlife. They're beginning to surface into the open area. The Bayada Akoko Haled Allah Lebanon that is keep a cut Lanson tomorrow at Chinle chapter. The Chinle agency are having their agency grading meeting. So I'm asking if RDC, as RDC chair, send a statement to, I know this may be, they may say that it's a short notice, but they need some update about water shortage, even into your A, indicating water restriction, Although some of these lakes or water ponds have all dried up. Akoko hudat ego nabetna has out ekodexment akoko halid ala kodo a natural resource. I believe that they really need to continue to work directly, not just by email, not just by to an individual, but as a whole. I think a lot of our grading official has a lot of questions, and I did send an email, Chairman, about that drought funding, crop insurance, 4 million peso chapters, which are at least at the 8 at the industry. But in the house, that this kid, as I indicated, had 3 planning meetings this morning. I only could be able to attend one of them. But what in the issue, in that this kid, the local grading official, the chapter official, and then of course the community members. Chairman, or Vice Chair, please send us a request for them to be at the Chinle Agency meeting tomorrow at 10 o'clock in Chinle at the Chinle chapter. So I appreciate the help, Chairman. And then at the same time, how do we continue to have as a government, as an oversight? Halid Allah, the Nandiniki Kote Dit sa yenda it kidiki Kote Diego Nahot Iki Tato at Papa Nate Ido Abachanahuit and I believe that the oversight committee and the chair, and the speaker somehow needs to get on the radio to assure the people out here that with all these restrictions in place, the Commission on Emergency Management is in place, the resource of water and other resource. FEMA so I think there's a need for some type of an assurance to the public, to our community, our Navajo people, that this is how we're working on their behalf of these issues that they're dealing with of a shortage of water across the Navajo Nation. So Chairman Nez, as you know, that I always say that chapter level, community level, in the midst of the Navajo Nation, Central Agency has the deed the Nandinigisa, Diego Sato, Anahuit Niniki, Hisaho, Adobasaho, I could end need on the Haskindan. But how do we coordinate and help our Navajo people in this situation? They're not getting the value of these that they're expecting as well. Call reduction, but let them make their own decision on that one. But just encourage them. Coordinate even have each of the agency grading officials and let them talk with them, with the public. It's out of the to have them do a live form or something on the radio to talk directly to the people. So I can't just stand idle and not say anything or do anything. And I do plan to write a statement to the president and speaker and the oversight committee and then CC the council that we really need to do something about the situation that we are encountering right now for the next several days. It's going to go back to 100 degrees in some areas of the Navajo Nation. Emergency Management, the key Commission on Emergency Management declared that our Navajo Nation program, the Water Management Office, Department of Agriculture, and everything else. Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Honorable Begay. We will contact the appropriate departments to be at Chinle Agency a koi hundred and to go hot, shouldn't know Senegi. The Koro, it's an emergency, no, by yet kitten. So, I needed that though, Kuroshi will send that out to invite them. So, yeah. Any other comments or questions? Announcement?
There. Daniel.
Honorable Daniels.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, RDC members. Dokodo Suchaya Hatzigi Kodon Delegate Walker. Mr. Vice Chair, yeah, Hatzigi and itinerary Niniki. I know we can't cover the whole 110 chapters within 5 days, 4 days. So the grades and officials, 8 and 8 chapters yanda, the Eastern Land Board, 8 chapters yanda, the condition of the area, windmills, the earthen dams, I don't hint feet, the Nikish Agis that they did and the Makashin dark, Hego the Shin dark, Hego the Zito, sometimes just out of curiosity, Hasta how and they got seen or you not, Hardest at Handa, Katunzona, I wonder a guy, I didn't judge. So when we go to other areas, across the Navajo Nation, myself and my wife, when they live, I came at the house of a Hasta. So other equal to Baba and Strada. So even as you go Hashington, his husband got great and official year of a better husband. So the gate of the Sahi Kahada Zadam. I know that the we're going to have a meeting with the grazing official again, but this is going to be on a home site list that AJ as special. But the great I go on the great itinerary, no, yet the great by the way, gap, Yego, Baba, that's case of that did. I see that the net that to bad then. Baba, the cut that in soil, but on the radar, I don't understand. But it's Utah, maybe visit a chapter where we can meet with the Navajo Youth Commission. That's 8 chapters, not that grazing official. So, I achieve that itinerary, yeah, John Dollars, I don't know, Magada Central Asian. But Kodona Gata Baha Big it Kodo Azudan Hinit, Eho Debiga Kodo Azudan Hinit, Eho Debiga, Suna Gata, Adana Jota, Ekodoma, Bob Gate, and myself. That's what we did. What all done, let's sort of always it'll be got a day. No, last week, Friday. Let's do this for our Navajo people. Actually, I died the door. Not so that Baba. They hate Z on the way them yesterday morning. And sure enough, President he signed the bill into law. So what Ecuador as he needs how they be Ecuador council. So but Hinan show how you Hinan show how you I don't know Ecuador and they would ask for and then again and Ecuador Chairman Ness. So he aside a hot and would ask for everybody is Ecuador that this drought, but not for their experience in this so even that you could also I say that he was able to see them it's hardy cut that drought tour. So it was about Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels, for that. And when we do have this itinerary, BIA pretty much has their stuff prepared and ready to send out to us. So they just text me and their recommendations. The drought say we started riding from San Juan community out to Little Water. We're going to start again today from Little Water to Sheep Springs. You say, oh, Sage Hanatta, Bahajo Bago has. Just look at that. There's no plants in some areas. Then things like that is what we need to see, especially out at Burnham, Newcomb, So when we do go out there and start from the western side, we need to put this time aside to look at it. Every day, we have to look at it. We shouldn't excuse ourselves too. Grazing officials, all livestock owners, so we'll do that, and we'll really focus on the issues. And it's understandable, but we can only do what we can. Adoshing Water Resources, they all need to be there. Division of Natural Resources. I know BIA is committed to be there with us, so any other announcements? None. Motion to adjourn.
Motion, Daniel.
Thank you. A second by Honorable Begay.
Freeland.
Honorable Freeland, how do you vote?
Green, Chairman.
Honorable Stewart.
Green.
Honorable Begay.
Chairman Keller votes green.
Honorable Vice Chair Walker.
Chairman, I vote green.
Honorable Daniels.
Mr. Chair, what you got on your ride to Sheep Spring? Drink plenty of water. I vote green.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels. We certainly have plenty of water in our backpack. So, it is currently 12:33. We are officially adjourned. Thank you very much. You all be safe, and may God bless you all.
Chair, this is Shammy. Just a reminder, you have 1 o'clock meeting with Navajo Land Department and General Land Development to review the options for the one-stop shop, and then make a selection so that they could initiate the plans for it. Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. We'll see you at 1 o'clock.